McLaren continues to deliver great performances after their massive upgrades at the Austrian Grand Prix, with another P2 finish for Lando Norris and a P5 finish for Oscar Piastri. But Andrea Stella stated that the team is still not where they want to be and sent out a big warning to the rest of the grid, which will definitely make their rivals sweat if they want to finish as the second best team. With the summer break approaching after this weekend, will we see another great race from the Papaya team, and what could they do until the end of the season? The recent performance of McLaren at the Hungarian Grand Prix, though expected to be challenging, was surprisingly strong. Despite the change in downforce from modern cars and the contrasting terrain from Silverstone, Lando Norris managed to secure second place. This shows a noticeable improvement in McLaren's abilities since their fourth-place finish in Austria and impressive performance at Silverstone. While their earlier successes were significant, the all-around performance at Hungary is indicative of a deeper progress within McLaren. It's not merely about refining their strengths for high-speed circuits. The team has evolved to remain competitive even in more demanding tracks, and indeed, Hungary was supposed to be a challenging circuit, but both Norris and Andrea Stella excelled in elucidating why it wasn't as dire as some anticipated. This circuit isn't as slow as the likes of Monaco, and it presents several medium-speed corners where McLaren now performs well. Their upgrades have strengthened the car not only for high speeds but also for medium speeds, and while there's still work to be done on slower corners, McLaren's overall progress is clear. As Oscar Piastri noted post-race, conditions that would have been a nightmare for McLaren just a few races ago are now manageable, further validating their advancement. The fact is that now the MCL 60 is good enough to secure a second-row start, fight for podiums, and hold off challenges, as demonstrated by Norris resisting Perez. This indicates that both the car and driver are rightfully front-runners, and while not at the extreme end, this performance signifies a shift in the sensitivity spectrum of the tracks for McLaren, which is an impressive change. Their confidence ahead of this race wasn't misplaced, as they've managed to turn a stagnant season into a noteworthy one, placing them in the second-place group. In the past 3 races, they've garnered significant points, a stark contrast to their meager 17 points from the first 7 races. Oscar Piastri, however, didn't secure what he might have earned due to floor damage and potential tire management issues. Despite these obstacles, the fact that the bad race now means a 5th place as opposed to the previous norm of 19th place testifies to McLaren's significant progress. Explaining where he picked up the floor issue, Piastri said, "I went a little bit wide at turn 11 and did enough damage that we had to change it. A big effort from all the boys to change the floor and get me back out for a few laps. Without that, we looked pretty good. I was pretty happy with the first run. The long run at the end, even though it wasn't that long for me, the pace looked promising. It has not been a bad day. Of course, I would prefer to have done a few more laps, but I think we are in a reasonable place." A good situation made even better is what McLaren's CEO Zak Brown said after the race, as according to him, McLaren won't be backing off on upgrades between now and the end of the season. The year began with a somewhat stubborn MCL 60, but McLaren's vehicle has seen significant advancements in recent races, largely due to the implementation of a comprehensive upgrade package's initial phase. In Austria, the car received major modifications, including new side pods, restructured bodywork around the engine cover, and an updated floor design. These changes are particularly monumental given the shift to ground effect aerodynamics. At Silverstone, the car's transformation continued with a fresh front wing and nose, as well as a further developed rear suspension, and the results of these improvements were clear, as drivers Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri secured 2nd and 3rd positions on the grid, eventually finishing the race in 2nd and 4th place respectively. The 3rd phase of the upgrades was initially slated for Hungary, however, due to unexpected delays in the parts production, this step has been postponed, and it's anticipated that these final modifications may not be completed until after the summer break. But even beyond that, McLaren won't be backing off on finding further refinements for the car. The stable regulations for 2024 means most of this year's learning will carry over to next year, as CEO Zak Brown explained to Sky F1. "We're pretty much staying the same. Everything that we're learning this season applies then to next season," he said when asked about the plans for the rest of the year. "So we're head down with full throttle. We have more developments coming, we'll have some big stuff later in the year, and I think we just keep pushing. We see how quickly it can change. You look at Alfa Romeo, they were 9th, 10th in the championship, and then they were quick in qualifying, and Williams has been in Q3. So it's so close. I don't think we can sit here and assume anything. We have to remember that 25% of McLaren's major upgrade is still to come too, delayed from Hungary. Red Bull is clearly out of reach performance-wise, and Mercedes are probably too far ahead on points, but if McLaren keeps this up, conceivably they could snatch 3rd in the championship, which would be absolutely insane given the start they had. Factor in the new wind tunnel, which isn't up and running yet, and if they keep both Lando and Oscar, the coming years could be really good for them, which isn't something I thought I would be saying. McLaren is a large organization, bigger than one person, but I feel that Prodromo has now been fully unleashed. Speaking in the press conference on Friday in Hungary, McLaren team boss Andrea Stella confirmed there will be more new parts coming to the car following the rollout of the final stage of the existing upgrade package. When it comes to the upgrades, actually, we realize that we need, from a design and production point of view, a bit more time to complete the full round, he said, of the existing package. So, what we will actually see is that there will be some new parts coming in the next races and above all, post-shutdown. So, can we consider McLaren as part of the top pack with Mercedes, Ferrari and Aston Martin after that Hungarian GP performance? I would say yes, definitely. Hungary was expected to be a weak track for them, after Austria and Silverstone suited them well. It should have, and to some degree did, play to Mercedes' strengths, but McLaren was still right there with them. It should have been good for Aston too, but they were way off. We're still going to see some back and forth between those 4 teams with different tracks suiting each of them better, and maybe some tracks where McLaren somewhat drops off. But at this point, I think we can safely say McLaren are in the mix for best of the rest behind Red Bull. As for the development, I think to some degree this season was a bit different for them. They pretty openly admitted at the start of the season that they knew they were going to be slow, and that they were relying on upgrades that would come later in the season. It seems like they went down a development path that didn't work out well, and at some point during the off-season they realized it wasn't going to work and they needed a major overhaul. That set them back a lot, so they had to start the season with a half-baked concept, while back at the factory they were building a whole new car that wouldn't be ready until sometime into the season. I'm not sure how much it's an ingrained problem in McLaren, because last year they only took a couple of races to get up to speed, while this season took much longer. I do remember at least one season in the 2000s where a B-spec McLaren mid-season changed their fortunes a lot too, and it was practically a whole new car. On the one hand, it's some positive decisiveness to drop a car concept and work towards a new one, but obviously it's not good when half your season is a write-off. There is a chance it could be down to their wind tunnel and simulations. Perhaps the results they get from initial tests show the car working well, but once they dig deeper, the problems reveal themselves. McLaren have put a lot of emphasis on the new wind tunnel they're building and how they think it will help them get back to winning races regularly. I have no idea how much this really affects things, but it sort of lines up with this problem. They start building a bad car and can't tell that it's bad until too late in the development process. McLaren are in a great place right now, and should they continue to develop the car and upgrade it all the way towards the end of the season, we might very well see them have an amazing season. They might not take Mercedes' position in the constructors' standings, but they sure will be very close to them. Let us know your thoughts and opinions about McLaren. Could they be in contention for podiums until the end of the season? Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.